gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air on a Monday here in the Quad Cities. It is January 27. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot to get to after a busy, fun, wild weekend of sports, not just in the Quad Cities, but around the country as well. A lot to get to today. A full show on a Monday, a busy week as well. A lot of big names that we're working on for later in the week that we will talk to you about later. But the names get no bigger than our normal Mondays with the one and only Pat Anger. Of course, Pat took last week off because he's rich and he went to Jamaica to enjoy the week with his lovely wife and friends as well. I didn't get invited, but we'll talk about that with Pat in just a little bit as well. But Pat's back. We'll talk a Bears coordinator position that has a tie to Iowa football. We'll get to that. Plus the Super Bowl is set. We'll have our weekly Angerer management. And believe it or not, I've had people reach out to me and say, Pat Angerer is helping me in my life. That's scary. So Pat Angerer will have his weekly Angerer management segment and a lot more. Also coming up later in the show, Chad Leistikow from the from the Des Moines Register and the Press Citizen will join us. One of the best Iowa beat writers in the entire state of Iowa, one of the best writers in the entire Midwest. Chad will be along. He will chat with us about Iowa basketball. We have a big weekend coming up with the ladies as the one and only Caitlin Clark will be back in the house at Carver Hawkeye Arena. We'll get his thoughts on that, his memories from covering Caitlin Clark. We'll talk Iowa men's and women's basketball. He loves the Bears as well, so a lot to get to with Chad Leistikow later in the show. And also the Super Bowl we mentioned is set. Patrick Mahomes is amazing, but the narrative that the Chiefs get help continues to get louder and louder. Some interesting calls this weekend once again by the officials. We'll be joined by Don Umland later in the show in hour number 2 to break down how to spot a football, what is a catch, all the craziness that happened in the world of sports this past weekend. If you're watching, we thank you for watching live on YouTube. Our good friends that Don't Hassle Us, We're Local, having a little watch party right now. So Jay Foster, T-Roy, all those guys that kind of inspired me because a few years ago they started a really cool podcast and daily sports show that kind of motivated me to do this kind of stuff as well. So they're chatting right now on the chat. So if you're bored, hop on the chat as well and chat with them because they have plenty to talk about as well. I'm going to effort to get Jay Foster on later this week because he knows a lot about Iowa wrestling, and it's Iowa Penn State wrestling coming up very, very soon. So we'll effort to get that done later this week as well. Also, if you can't check out the show right now, make sure you're also subscribing and following us on all the podcasting platforms as well, including Apple Podcasts. So we're very excited about that as well. So a lot to get to. A big weekend. Some of the headlines: Madison Keys is a Grand Slam winner. Madison Keys from right here in the Quad Cities winning the Australian Open. And the ironic part or the cool part about her story is that she probably peaked when it comes to rankings or where they thought she would peak. 2018, she was the 7th ranked tennis player in the world. Didn't get that Grand Slam then, continues to work her butt off. And here we are 7 years later, and she is an Australian Open champion. Her personal coach from growing up here in the Quad Cities, Tim Baldridge, will join us tomorrow on the show. We mentioned that the Super Bowl is set. It will be the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, and also the Bears with an offensive and defensive coordinator hire. So a lot to get to. And with that, we bring in our first guest, and it is the one and only Pat Anger. And I worry about your audio issues. So Pat, I just want to hear that voice of yours to make sure we're doing okay.
How you doing, Matt? I tell you, you got a great intro. You're doing a good job. You should be proud of yourself.
Patrick, we can't hear you.
You really can't?
What did you do between 9:45 and now? Actually, we probably can't.
Can you really?
I can hear you.
You really can't hear me?
I can hear you. I'm just messing
God,
with you. I'm just
dang it. Don't do this to me, Matt.
Hey, welcome back. You look good.
No, I don't.
How was
but I feel
how
good.
was
It was a
Jamaica?
good it was a good trip. It was me and my wife. We needed. She probably needed it more than I did, but it was good. It was a fun trip, and it was good to be around good people. And Jamaica's great. I've never been down there before, and yeah, it was good.
I, I'm
Hey,
assuming it was good. What did you do? Is it one of those things that you just relaxed the entire time? Did you do something stupid? Did you, deep sea dive? I don't know. What did you do? What did you do on your vacation?
I just peed in the pool and drank. That was kind of the big thing. Got in the ocean.
In that order?
Yeah,
Was it that order? Shouldn't it be
yeah.
drink
It's
and
funny.
then pee in the pool?
There, there there was one trip I took the kids on. They were really young, and my son Emmett. Like we are trying to find a bathroom at this. We got to this resort. We're trying to find a bathroom, and Emmett's like, I got to pee. So I'm looking for the bathroom. Couldn't find it. I'm like, just pee in the pool. So he takes one step in the pool. It's up to his shins. Pulls his pants down and just starts peeing. And so I thought about that. When I was peeing in the pool, just make sure that I'm fully immersed in the water before you know I
Like
go.
like father, like son. That's a beautiful story. That is the way everyone should start off their Monday. If you're feeling bad about yourself, just imagine Pat watching his kid pee. That story was from a week ago, I'm assuming. Emmett younger, I hope, at that time.
Yeah, right. No, this was gosh, this would have been 2016-ish. I don't know. But yeah, yeah, you just got to make sure. And it's tough too because like everywhere I go, I'm the trashiest looking guy there, and then I've got my kid just taking a huge piss in the
Yeah.
pool, and that was tough to come back from.
Um, but is it one of those relaxing vacations? Because like, and my wife doesn't watch the show, so I don't have to worry. But she like plans everything out so much. Where we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and I'm exhausted after vacation. And during the pandemic, we
Yeah.
snuck away down to Florida, and we had a vacation where we just didn't do anything. We went to this beach, then that beach, then this pool. And that's what I like. Was it one of those where you just didn't have anything to do and you could just veg out, relax, and have fun?
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, no plans. Just hey, take the day where it takes, or go where the day takes you. And no, it was really good. And it's funny, we're gone for what 6 days, and you really start missing the kids obviously towards the end of it, and
No,
then you
you
get
don't.
home and
That's a
for like
lie.
for
That's
like
a
an
flat
hour.
out lie.
Well,
You're lying. You're lying.
you get home and then for like an hour you're like the best dad in the world, and then they do something and you're chewing their ass. It's that wears off pretty quick, but it was good. It was I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the people we were there with. And Jamaica's a really cool country, and they love Americans there. Yeah, the our driver, he was telling us a story. He said he was at a bar and there was this guy that was cheering when I think it was Boston Marathon, and this guy was at the bar and he was cheering when it happened. And he said everybody there was so upset and so mad that he was cheering against Americans that they just beat the hell out of the guy, and then the cops came and they beat the hell out of the guy again, and then they arrested him. So they love Americans down there, and the people we had around us were really good. Everybody was so kind. It was a good time.
Did you lose weight? You look good. You look thinner.
I don't, I'm still trying to get the week out of me. I'm still trying to get that week out of me, detox a little bit. But no, I'm still fat.
Do you tan? Are you a tan guy or are you a burn guy? Like I don't want to brag, but I'm Italian, so I've burned twice my whole life. And maybe no, it was once. We went to our honeymoon and we were down in God, I can't remember where we went, Punta Cana, and I was being cool and I was like, I don't wear sunscreen. We went outside for an hour and we came back in and I was red as a lobster. So that was being closer to the equator, but I don't normally. Do you burn? Do you tan? You seem like a burn guy.
Why do you say that?
Because your face is red right now. It's a little red, I think.
Yeah, I burned, but I got a good little base. It wasn't. I wore sunscreen, and sometimes when I was too lazy to put sunscreen on, I just put a shirt on and just hung out in the ocean.
You took your shirt off?
Oh, dude, yeah, and I had to put it on because just all the women were just all over me,
No, they
and
weren't.
Mary was getting jealous.
No, they weren't. That's not true. One last thing on Jamaica, and then we'll talk about what people care about maybe is sports. Although I find this fascinating. What's the best thing you ate?
I don't know. Everything was good. The food was good. I'm not picky, dude. Honestly, I'm so simple. They had an omelet station every morning. So the omelets, I love omelets. The omelets were good.
So of all the things you ate in Jamaica,
The omelets were
omelets,
great.
omelets are what we're
Well,
going with.
I got smart though. So like a couple of days, I was always hungry. They give you these small portions, right, at these all inclusives. And finally, I was just like, well, I'm going to order two appetizers, two entrees, two desserts, and made sure that that I was filled up there. And I need the calories too. It's a lot of energy I'm burning just being in the pool. So I needed the calories so I could just kind of get through it.
God bless you. And you are in the best shape of your life being a media guy now. I don't know if you noticed this, but media guys, we don't have the best shape. So you're one of us
I
now.
think you
It's
look
a
good.
slippery slope. I look awful. I
Yeah.
look absolutely awful. I don't even hear out of these headphones. I just wear them because they cover up my ears. That's the only reason I wear them. If I went back to TV,
I'm
I
glad
would
that you admitted
campaign.
that.
I would campaign to wear headsets the entire. There's no reason we don't wear these all the time. I go from like a look at this. I go from like a 1 to like
Oh, you
a
look
4
good.
to like a 4. That's the
Yeah.
best thing for me. I
Four's a
know.
little high. Four's a little high.
Probably. I want to start with you with the Bears' newest offensive coordinator. It's Declan Doyle, and I'm not a very smart person. We start texting last night about Declan Doyle, and you're a fan, and you're excited, and I'm like, "Oh, Pat, did you play with him?" And then you explain to me that you're old and you haven't played with anybody in a long, long time. But it is the son of Chris Doyle and a guy that got his start at Iowa. When you hear about this hire, what goes through your mind when you hear the Bears and Declan Doyle?
I'm just so excited. I'm so excited for him. So excited for the family. I've known Declan, since I was at Iowa, and he was just a little kid running around. And what an amazing career for him. What 4 years as a GA at Iowa, and then goes to the Saints for a couple of years, and then goes to the Broncos with Sean Payton, and now he's an OC and he's 28 years old. Like, dude, what a legend. I'm 37. I don't even know what I want to do when I grow up. I have no idea. I don't even know how to get my clothes on half the time. And this guy's an OC at 28. It's funny too, because you're growing up around here, everybody's kind of a Bears fan usually growing up. Most people, I know some people are Lions fans, even though they got killed in the playoffs. But
Just keep
but,
going. Keep going. Keep going.
it's I'm excited to be able to just to watch and cheer for him, and tremendous kid, tremendous family, and he's going to do really, really well. That's a tough task. That's a tough task to be the OC for the Bears, and I know he's prepared. I know he's up for it.
Yeah, I guess a couple things that come to mind for me is because one, he's so young, and he used to be like Ben Johnson was 35 when he became OC at Detroit, and some head coaches are in their late 30s, but it's becoming a younger league. Why is that? It used to be the old guys were the head coaches and you had to have the experience. Is it because the league's becoming more innovative and analytics and that kind of stuff? Or why is it that the coaches and now OCs continue to get younger and younger? And that's not a bad thing. It seems to be working.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I think you're probably spot on with it being innovative and all that. And Declan's a super intelligent, smart kid, and maybe too, there's obviously probably some risk there as well. OCs get fired all the freaking time, and maybe some of these guys that have been in the game for a long time, they just don't want to deal with it, right? They want to stay where they're at. But yeah, I have no idea why it's becoming such a young man's game, young man's job. But if there's anybody that's up for it, it's Declan.
Yeah, no, seems excited, seems ready to go. You mentioned that family, and obviously, a lot of Iowa/Bears fans excited or understood it. But if you take yourself outside of not our area, but the combination of Bears and Hawkeye fans, the non-Hawkeye Bears fans didn't know that connection, and I think kind of questioned the move a little bit. First off, Ben Johnson's the guy. He's going to be calling your plays. He's going to be leading that offense. So it is a good situation for Declan where he can learn and not get thrown right into the fire. You mentioned Bears offensive coordinators. It's like being an Iowa offensive coordinator. It's not the most sought after job in America, but I think that helps that he'll have Ben Johnson there. But now you have this morning some people putting crossing or connecting the dots, I should say, and putting this is Chris Doyle's son. Dan Bernstein, who's an idiot in my opinion, it put out this big article this morning about how dare we hire Chris Doyle's son. First and foremost, I don't want to get into the Chris stuff. I like Chris. I think he's a great guy. But you can't associate everything with. Can you imagine Emmett and Kale having to deal with the dumb things that you did in your life?
Yeah, that would be good for Emmett and Kale. I'm sure they deal. Kale probably deals with it more now that there's some middle school teachers that taught me when I was there. But no, I mean, I've known the family for a long time. They've been great to me. Coach Doyle was the best coach I've ever had and best man that I know. And when I have issues and stuff that I need to deal with in my life, I don't know how to do it. I call him. He answers every time. He walks me through it. Somebody that I loved like a father, and he held me accountable. He held a lot of us to a higher standard than we thought that he knew we were better than we thought we were, and he pushed us to that level. And there's no way that I would be in the NFL, would have been in the NFL without Coach Doyle. There's no way that I would be a decent part of the community without Coach Doyle. And I think about the things that he taught me and pushed me and instilled in me. I think about that all the time.
You look at that, and Chris recently did an interview with Keith Murphy and kind of got his side. I thought it was really well done. But when you look at that, it's not just Chris that's had to move on and do something, but it's these boys. And you look at Dylan, who was a linebacker at the University of Iowa, and he went to Baylor. And you see him tweeting last night about his big brother. That's kind of, and honestly, Pat, that's when it all came together for me. I was on Twitter and I saw Dylan tweeting about his older brother, and I was like, I'll be damned. That's why everybody's texting about this. So it took me a while to pick it up, but you look at Dylan and you look at Declan, they went through it as well, didn't they?
Oh, for sure. And also, I mean, Coach Doyle has another son named Donovan who wrestled at Harvard. Super intelligent. Like, these kids are unbelievable kids. And it's an amazing family. And that's got to be really tough. And I know that it was really hard on Coach. I know he would probably never really admit how hard it was, because he's always going to be the positive guy and be strong. But that has to be really hard. So for me, it's good to see that family get a win. It's really good to see that family get a win, because they deserve it, and they're good people. And going back to that Keith Murphy interview, I thought Keith did a really great job. I would love to get a chance to talk to him and just tell him, he did a good job there, because I thought he was very, very fair, and he laid everything out there and asked the hard questions. And I was really impressed with what he did. Obviously, for me as a radio guy, I understand how hard it is to do these interviews, because I don't know what the hell I'm saying half the time. But I thought Keith did a really good job there.
Yeah, and he did. And, I'm sure he watches the show every single day, Pat. So I'm sure you just conveyed it to him. I mean, it's big in Des Moines as well. So, happy for them. The Bears also a defensive coordinator. Are you a Bears fan? Like, does this officially make you a Bears fan?
As of right now, yeah. And honestly, too, if you weren't such a Lions fan, then I probably wouldn't be so much of a Bears fan now for the last, I don't know, 10 hours. I've been a Bears fan.
How is that 10 hours?
But I was never, it's been, haven't lost yet. I didn't grow up a fan of any team. Actually, I was, not really
That's
a fan
weird.
of
I call
anybody.
I call
Maybe Marcus
bullshit.
Allen.
Really? Nothing? Like, you not, like, what
I mean,
was
I
your
was
dad?
always playing sports. Like, we didn't have cable.
You didn't need to have cable. Don't give me that.
My dad was a Bears fan. I liked players. I was a big Marcus Allen was probably my favorite one growing up, only because I had his jersey. He was, when he was with the Chiefs. And right now, for me, I root for guys that I know. Obviously, guys from Iowa, guys that I played with, guys that I've known throughout the years, and that actually makes it a lot more fun and more enjoyable during the season.
So, if a former teammate became a coordinator someplace, you'd be rooting for him.
Well, you're trying to get me to jump on the Lions board. Now maybe they'll be my number two, because they got Jack Campbell, who's 9 foot tall.
He is. You know what? He is the opposite of what you are as a middle linebacker. I don't mean that in a bad way, but like he is. He's like 6'5". He runs like a colt, and then not so much for you anymore. But
Do you know what's funny? When he was getting drafted, when he was getting ready to go into the league, Lon Olenczak created a text message with me and Josie Jewell and Jack because he wanted Jack to kind of understand how guys in the NFL are going to talk. Apparently, me and Josie are both completely insane, and he wanted to kind of get Jack used to just idiots. And now we've got Cooper DeJean in that text group as well, and obviously almost he's up for rookie defensive player of the year. So basically, I take all the credit.
is that the coolest text group you have?
Basically, nobody responds. It's just me and Lon talking. Everybody else is busy.
No, it makes perfect sense. Pat Anger joining us on a Monday here on Off the Air. The Super Bowl set. Now you go to Jamaica like rich people do, and you come back and you play with your
it's
kids.
very cheap. I've been to your house. It's a billion dollar house.
So you come back, you play with your kids for an hour, so you feel better about yourself, and then you abandon them. Do you abandon them and go watch football all day yesterday? Did you watch the games? I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I did. I watched most of them. There was some stuff that cooking and cleaning and doing laundry and shaving my head and all that stuff.
So you couldn't watch the game because your maid was cooking and cleaning and shaving
Oh,
your head?
dude, don't you even, dude. Don't you
Okay,
even. You
so
live in a private cul-de-sac
Shut up. It's a cul-de-sac.
with a bunch of other
There's nothing
million-dollar
private about
houses.
it. All right, so focus. Kansas City, Philadelphia. I know you don't have any skin in the game when it comes to like teams you root for and all that kind of stuff. Are you one of those guys that get tired of seeing the same people or the same teams over and over? Or do you appreciate what Kansas City's doing, knowing you've been in the league and you didn't come anywhere close to that level? No offense.
Whoa,
offense.
watch it.
No offense.
Watch it. I think Patrick Mahomes is the winner, and I think I think people should appreciate him. Well, we've got him. That dude, what an amazing career he's had so far, and he's probably got, I don't know, 10 more years left or however long, I don't know. They just find a way to win. They find a way to win dirty, and it's tough and it's gritty. And the one thing that will be interesting is I thought Zach Ertz did a really good job against the Eagles in the game. That I think what he have 100 some yards, and he really kind of tore apart their linebacker coverage because linebackers were the ones that were on him, and he did an amazing job. So maybe Taylor's boyfriend might have a good game in the Super Bowl. But also too, when I like to gamble sometimes. Me and my friends randomly go to the casino.
You can do that. Okay.
Not with my money, with my buddy's money. He's rich, like you. And I'm sitting there and I'm playing roulette and I'm trying to figure out what to do. And this old cowboy walks by and I was like, "Hey man, what are you thinking here?" And he put his hand on my shoulder. And he goes, "Son, the trend is your friend." And so I put all my money on black and I won like $1 million. It was like 100, but it felt like $1 million. And I looked and the guy walked away. The guy was gone. I had no idea where he was. He disappeared. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. So a little bit of me is like, hey, maybe the trend's your friend here with the Chiefs. I don't know. I believe the old cowboy had some wisdom.
It's tough to. I feel like that was almost your anger or management, but we're not going to let you get off the hook with that because
Okay.
I got to run the open. It's not anger or management unless I run the cool open that I did for it. No, I get the frustration. They become the Yankees where they win all the time. But there is that narrative out there.
Beat 'em.
But there is the narrative they get calls. And there's bad calls every game. And I haven't been the guy to jump on this yet, but there were some really interesting, weird calls yesterday that even got reviewed and didn't change. Do you feel like there is that narrative or that fix is in? Are you a one of those guys that believes in that kind of stuff? That the fix is in for the Chiefs or for whoever it is?
I mean, I love a good conspiracy.
That's what I was trying to think of, conspircy, and I couldn't think of the damn
like the
word,
moon
so thank
landing,
you.
stuff like that.
Yeah. Are you a conspiracy?
I don't know. I do. I mean, the Bills still had the opportunity to win the game. They still that last drive. I didn't like their play calls. I wish they could have went to the run. a little bit sooner. I think Cook is a really good running back. That touchdown that he scored on that option was unreal,
Yeah.
unreal effort. That was big time. And then too, Kincaid, that was catchable ball right at the end. And that was a tough one. Was catchable. So I don't think the fix is in. I don't know.
But when you look at that spot, and it looks like he gets it, you go
Oh,
back to. Am I
that was the game. It was like the game of QB sneaks. You got these powerful offenses,
all day it
right?
was.
It was like every other play was a freaking QB. Yeah, too. And the Commanders Eagles. Yeah, let me
Yeah.
sneak. Like that's an important. The only play I run next year with my youth.
You might need to get that in the playbook, for sure. Hey, Cooper DeJean's going to the Super Bowl. How cool is that for that young man to be heading to the Super Bowl and representing the University of Iowa a couple Sundays from now?
Yeah, he deserves it. He deserves all the success that he gets, and I don't think anybody is surprised. He's really, really good. Like he's really, really good at football. Every time I watch him, I'm like, dude, how are you doing this stuff? Dude is a he's a machine, and I'm proud of him, and I'm happy for him. Yeah, and I think Iowa will get behind them like they always do. The one thing too, going back on the vacation, there was so many Iowa State people there. It was really strange,
Really?
and maybe they're always on. Maybe Iowa State people are always on vacation, but now they were decked out in Iowa State gear, so they must have had a decent year and won the Pop Tart Bowl or something.
Did they have tags on their clothes still, or was it clothes they've had for a while? They didn't just hop on the bandwagon. It's funny because they played out at Arizona State, the Iowa State men, and they had a huge fan base in Arizona watching that game. They go down to Kansas City for the Big 12 championship all the time. Not football, although football was this year, but for basketball, and they have a huge fan base there too. So I guess Cyclone, it's cool to be a Cyclone these days. I don't know if I can say that with you on here, but I guess it's cool to be a Cyclone. Do you have a pick early on when it comes to this Super Bowl? We'll get one more when it comes closer, but your first initial thoughts of this Super Bowl coming up in 13 days.
Let's tell I mean, Saquon's really good. He's really freaking
Good
good.
thought.
And I think the Chiefs, they've got a good run defense, right? Aren't they in the top five in the NFL? So that'll be obviously a big test. The hard part is like you can't. It's like betting against Brady, right? You can't go against Mahomes. I don't know. Obviously, I'll listen to I'll read one article, and if it says what I think, then I'll figure that. I don't know. I think it's going to be a great game. I'm really looking forward to it.
No, it'll be a lot of fun. Hey, couple more things for you before we take a break, and then I want to do your anger management. Iowa wrestling, nice victory this weekend. They got Penn State coming up next week, and you look at Iowa wrestling, what they're doing, there's a lot of excitement. They're doing good things. You get excited. And then you look at Penn State and damn it, Pat, like every dude on that lineup is ranked number 1 in the nation. Can they battle, hang with, beat? What are expectations for Iowa Penn State wrestling next weekend?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the best Iowa teams in a while. They're tough. I think what is it? Every guy in the top 10, which is unbelievable. So obviously Iowa's got their best, and one thing about Iowa guys, we have a good scrap. So hopefully we'll come out there, we'll compete and give us an opportunity to win the duel. And I'll never count out Iowa boys. Iowa can survive, Dazzo.
Yeah, no, I think
you're an Illinois fan, but Iowa boys can survive.
You're kind of getting choppy. Do they pay the internet at IH?
I don't know. We're just waiting for your mortgage payment. We're waiting for your mortgage payment so then we can afford to pay for the internet.
Hey, go take me back to your college days, and it's January, getting close to February. What are you doing? Like somebody asked me this weekend, what are you doing? Are you taking a break? Are you getting your body healthy? Are you working out? How are you in January and February? What's college football players doing right now?
You're hitting it hard. You're hitting the weight room hard. You're doing your speed and conditioning work. Um, you're training your ass off. I mean, for me, it was one of the funnest parts, I thought, because you're getting really really strong. You're training extremely hard. You're getting pushed. You're smoked. You're exhausted, um, and obviously you're getting your body back right. But yeah, this is a tough part. This is a tough part of the year for college football players because you're getting after it right now.
What does Pat Anger do for the Super Bowl?
I don't know. I'll probably just sit on the couch and watch the game. We'll probably have some kids over. You know, my kids' friends will probably come over, and we'll have people over and watch the game and
What do you
have a couple
eat?
beers.
Like, is there like, oh, it's Super
Whatever.
Bowl, I gotta make this, I gotta make that. I'm thinking about next week doing a segment where we could be you, might be you.
Should be angry.
We make some food. Like, can we go to Anger Eats and make
Well,
some food and like tape it, record it?
I'm sure you probably could. Eat a pair, yeah.
What would it be
Just
at
like
Anger Eats?
for $1,000, yeah, $1,000 you can do it. No, honestly, my wife always puts together an unbelievable bread, so we're definitely not full at all. But yeah, I mean, she makes food for 20,000 people. I feel like on the Super Bowl.
Is that weird? Is that weird? Like that she's more successful and famous? Not weird, but she is. She's more successful, more well known than you are.
Yeah, and she should be. She deserves it. She's a lot better person than me. Her only downfall is that you can question her judgment, right? Because she's the one that chose to marry me. So obviously there's some judgment issues there. But like we had talked about before, I mean every girl loves a project, right?
Yeah. God bless our wives. Hey, do you have an anger management? Or are you going to be doing this off the fly?
I'm going to be doing it off the fly. I'll put something together quick.
Do you realize that you're affecting people, not just here in the Quad Cities, but
Well, I got something really. Yeah, it's not as cool as the last couple, but it's a little sentimental.
ooh, what's the subject? Give us a little tease before we go to break, and then we'll come back and do it.
On vacation, now that it's hot on my mind,
All right.
and the
Well,
Gulf of America.
He is Pat Anger. We're going to hit a quick commercial break, and then when we get back, it is the most popular, fastest rising segment in the world. Is that too much?
I would say, yeah, probably
Yeah.
the universe.
So Pat Anger is going to help you and give you life advice. That we also got Chad Leistikow coming up later on in the show, and then we'll talk about this NFL controversy with Don Umland as well. Also, I want to meant to mention this at the top of the show, but coming up on tomorrow's show, we have a really good Iowa football player, not Pat. Caleb Johnson is going to join
Yeah,
us
he's good.
tomorrow. So excited about that. Caleb getting ready for the NFL draft out in California. So we'll have Caleb Johnson on the show tomorrow. So make sure you mark that down and join us then. But tomorrow is a day away. Today is now. Pat Anger is in the house. So we have Anger Management
Hello, Dan
right after
Pearson
this.
here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? there's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. We are back here on a Monday on Off the Air, joined by the one and only Pat Hanger. Why was there a like sign that? Why are they keep popping up?
I don't know. It must be good. At least it's not the other way.
No, you know? I like it. It means somebody's happy. I'm not used to seeing people. People only complain, Pat. Like Polish Hawk and people like that, they only complain. It's like people are never happy. Hey, I got on the chat, and our good friend Jay Foster's on there. And several other people on there, which is absolutely fantastic. But they were talking about the fix is not in. People get mad because their teams always win. They're loaded. Penn State is loaded next week. So it'll be a tough task for Iowa. Yep. It's the best team. It's an all-star team each and every year. What they've done. It's Cale Sanderson out there, right? At Penn State. So he's doing fantastic stuff. All right. Have you cleared your... Not that there's too much going on up there, but have you cleared your mind?
Watch it. Yeah. I mean, I already forgot, but hopefully with the great intro, I'll be able to figure it out.
All right. With that being said, when you get done, so I know that you're done, you have to say, and that's this week's anger management or something like that. So okay. I know. I just don't want to jump in the middle of it.
Just give me the mic and do the intro, and let's do this.
I'm on it. If I can find it. There we go.
Media mogul, broadcaster of the next generation. I don't know. I just made that up. It sounded good. All right. This is your anger management here. You know, for me, I would say, obviously come back from vacation. I would say take that vacation. If you're thinking about it, if you're trying to the funds and all that stuff, take it. It's worth it. It's a lot of fun. And I'm a big Into the Wild book fan. I love that book. I don't like this close up right now that you just put on me. But I'm a big Into the Wild fan, and part of that book was, he eventually realized, he said, true happiness is shared, and that's something that, we realized when we were down there that, yeah, we could have taken the vacation at a good time with just us two, but we were surrounded by so many great people that it wouldn't have been as fun without them. So take that vacation and share your happiness with others, because it's a lot more enjoyable. And that is your anger management of the week.
Wow.
Is that beautiful? Or it's kind of lame? Oh, there you go.
It's good. It's really good. I think you took it too serious. There's nothing to laugh about. That's good.
Yeah, sorry. I'll be better next week.
What about this? You don't like this?
No, Jesus. What is that? Stop that.
It's my close-up. I don't know why it's that close to you. I don't hear. Sit back. Sit back for a second.
That is close.
Sit back for a second. I think you froze. That's still a bad look. No, we're just gonna go ahead and do this. We'll just keep this thing going. What's your Monday look like?
No more close-ups. I gotta go. A lot to do today. A lot of things were missed last week.
That's it? You're not gonna tell us what you're doing? You're gonna work?
Yeah, I got to work. And then I have to. My son's got a basketball game, and so I'll head out there and watch him just shoot a bunch of threes.
What are you having for lunch before I let you go?
I felt terrible after eating it for a week that I meal prepped last night. So I got some chicken and some rice for.
Look at you. He said chicken and some rice. No one could understand it or hear it because your internet's cutting in and out.
Chicken, vegetables, and rice.
Ooh, veggies too. That's not
Yeah,
fun.
you got to get the veggies in.
That's not fun. You want to hit lunch later this week? Eat something fat?
Give me a week. Give me probably next week. I'll be meal prep. I'll probably give up on it. So then we'll meet and we'll go to like Happy Joe's or something.
I love it. I'm happy. No, I don't want to bash Happy Joe's. They could be a sponsor.
We'll go to,
They're not. They could be. They're not. But
They
I
could
think
be.
there's probably better, like Who Hut or
Who Hot?
Hawaii. Is it
Hawaiian
hot?
Bros?
Is it Who Hut or Who Hot?
I don't know. I always call it Who Hot.
I thought it was Who Hut. Hawaiian Bros is legit.
Either way,
too.
it's solid.
Hey, there's a new burger place by Alleman. I know you don't go over to Alleman anytime, anywhere, but Al's Burgers.
Not since Joe left.
No, Al's Burgers. It's supposed to be really good. Smash burgers, fries, shakes.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know I like a little shake. You know that. You know I like a little shake.
I've heard sometimes you like a lot of shake. Just depends on what type of mood you're in.
Let's hit up Al's.
No, we're not going to do that. You don't hang out with me unless I pay you a ridiculous amount of money for this 45 minutes. Other than that, you don't even like. I can't even afford to eat tonight because I have to pay Pat to be on the off the air with Matt Randazzo. So, hey, friend,
It's part of the process, man.
Thanks for doing this. You look good. You do, and the vacation was well deserved. You needed it.
I love you.
All right, no, you don't.
You're doing a great job.
You don't know what
you're
love
gonna have
means.
over 200 viewers. You're gonna have some viewers here.
We've been killing it, except for like one episode was a little low. But other than that, we've been doing good.
Yeah.
Hey, how about this?
I believe
this
you.
is the beginning. We're 3 weeks in, and we're close to 10,000 views.
Wow.
That's not bad, is it?
Take your shirt off, you'd have way more views.
No. But 10,000, that's a good number. It's not like we got 7 views.
Yeah. How many of those 10,000 were Joe Conklin?
Probably not enough. You're cranky because we haven't talked about Joe yet. That's 2 Joe references in the last 90 seconds. Like you didn't get your quota in.
Well, hey. Yeah, right.
He is good looking. He is a good man. So anyways, he's Pat Anger. He'll join us again next week. Make sure you take his life advice to heart and go and take all the money that you may not have because you're not rich like him and go spend it and splurge on a vacation that you can't afford. Yeah. That's what I learned. That's what
go
I
on vacation.
What's that?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, buddy.
He
is Pat Anger. We appreciate him being here each and every Monday on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We got a lot more to get to. Coming up later in the show, we will chat with Chad Leistikow. He is one of the best Iowa beat writers in the business. He's with the Des Moines Register and Press Citizen. He'll be along to talk about Caitlin Clark and a big Sunday coming up with the Iowa women's basketball team. Also, the Iowa men and women in action early this week. The men play tonight, so we'll talk to him about that. Get his thoughts, his feedback on Owen Freeman and Brock Harding. Obviously, 2 local kids that get a lot of love here in the Quad Cities, but what do the rest of the state and maybe the rest of Iowa fans see when they see Brock Harding and they see Owen Freeman? We'll talk to him about that. Also, he's a big Bears fan as well. So a lot to get to with Chad Leistikow. We'll also start something new today called The Best Thing I Saw This Weekend, and it's something I saw in person. I actually got a little video of it. We'll show it to you. All that and Don Umland in hour number 2. We are just getting warmed up. You're watching Off the Air on a Monday right here. We will be right back.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, just got wrapped up with the one and only Pat Anger. Always great to talk with Pat. Of course, kind of some big news if you're a Bears fan, if you're a Hawkeye fan, but the Bears naming Declan Doyle the new offensive coordinator, 28 years old, former GA at the University of Iowa, of course, the son of former strength and conditioning coach Chris Doyle. I am a Doyle guy. I believe that he did a lot for the program. I know people, I know players that I've spoken with that how much they talk about how much he's done for the program and for them in general. So I, for one, am a Chris Doyle supporter, if that's such a thing. But whether you are or you're not, what you dad did has nothing to do with what you do as a son in life and all that kind of stuff. So kind of disappointed to see, kind of good to see him get a chance with the Bears, 28 years old. I hate seeing people like Dan Bernstein try to jump up and bring up stuff from the past to try to bash a young man who's just getting his start in the city of Chicago as a 28-year-old offensive coordinator. So Bears news big. We also have a Super Bowl set. It is the Chiefs. It is the Eagles. Unfortunately, if you're a hater of the Chiefs, you really didn't like yesterday's game. Some more controversial calls, and I'm not a guy that believes in that kind of stuff. I haven't been a basher of the Chiefs that much, but yesterday, I don't think there's a fix in, but I do believe that the Chiefs were the benefit of some big calls. We'll talk more about that. We're talking about that live on our YouTube chat right now. So if you're watching live on YouTube, go check that out as well and kind of weigh in on that. Don Umland, a local referee, will be he's our officials expert. He'll be in later in the show to chat about that. Also, coming up in just a little bit, we will also talk with Chad Leistikow, kind of get his feedback on a bunch of cool things going on in the world of sports when it comes to the Iowa side of the river as well. One of the things I wanted to start on Mondays is the coolest thing I saw all weekend. And when you think about that, you think of, game-winning touchdowns or things like that. The thing that I saw came at my alma mater, Alleman High School, and it was on senior night. And these are the kind of senior night moments that I think we need more of in sports. And we do get a lot of them. And we're going to take you to Alleman High School on Saturday. It was senior night, and there is a seldomly used player. Actually, my video just froze on me, so I'm going to cut back to me, and we'll get back to that in just a second. But we'll get to my best thing I saw all weekend because it froze on my side in a second. But we're going to take another quick break, efforting to get Chad Leistikow online, up and going. So we will hit a quick break, and we'll be back with Chad Leistikow right after this.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot to get to on a Monday. And I'm multitasking, which means it is a busy Monday. We had Pat Anger on the show to start the show. Coming up in just a little bit, my good friend Chad Leistikow from the Des Moines Register will be by to talk everything when it comes to Iowa Hawkeye basketball, and especially the ladies. He went out west last week for their trip to Oregon and Washington. He also covered the one and only Caitlin Clark for quite some time. So we'll be joined by Chad Leistikow in a matter of moments as I change the name on my screen here. All right, there we go. Also, coming up later this week, in fact, tomorrow, we'll be joined by Caleb Johnson, the former Iowa running back, getting ready for the NFL draft. He's out in California. We'll be joined by Caleb Johnson tomorrow on OTA, and I see the man himself sitting into his chair and getting all comfortable. So I don't have to stretch very often in my old job. Usually the weather guy took all of that, but we are joined now by the one and only Chad Leistikow. And Chad, I want you to talk to me so I can hear you. Are you there?
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Yes. I've been better, Chad. It's been one of those mornings. I know you've probably had those in this business, but anything that can go wrong has gone wrong. But now that Chad Leistikow is on the screen, we are good to go. First and foremost, how are you? How was your weekend? How is life in a busy schedule that is Chad Leistikow?
Yeah, it's my daughter's emailing me from school, not feeling well, so I'm trying to figure out when I can go get her. So yeah, we're all having kind of crazy mornings here, but life's good. Got to go out to the Pacific Northwest this past week and cover the Iowa women. Also took my wife with me, and we enjoyed a little vacation in between. So people yelling at me for not watching the men's game. I was spending time with my wife, and I didn't really miss much from that Iowa Minnesota game, by the way. So, but yeah, got to see Oregon, Washington, the Pacific Northwest. Now back and ready for a big week of women's hoops. Got the Hawkeye women tomorrow night. Obviously, the men play tonight at Ohio State, but then, of course, Sunday's game against USC is going to be pretty monstrous.
Yeah, and you know what? And I don't know, you probably weren't listening because you're dealing with kids. I have a sick one downstairs as well. He's doing okay, though. I think it's one of those sick until maybe like noon, and then he feels okay type of things. But Pat Anger was just on. He just got back from Jamaica, and his anger management segment, in which he gives life advice, which is very dangerous, he talked about taking time to take a vacation. And that's exactly what you did. So good for you. How was the Pacific Northwest? I've been out there a few times. I find it awesome. It's just beautiful, beautiful part of the country.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away but it is pretty great. No, I think it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, the state of Washington, honestly. And that was my first time to Oregon. Get to go back there here for football here in the next couple of years, not this season, but Hawks will play at Washington in 2026 and at Oregon in 2027. So as long as I'm employed at the Register, I'll be out there. Cross my fingers there. But yeah, no, it's great. The mountains is where we spent some of our time, on the vacation part of it. It's between the two games.
Yeah. And
man, it's so beautiful. My family and I went out to Rainier last year in Olympic National Park. Just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So really thankful for that. And now I really feel like I'm back at it this week. I mean, like Cooper DeJean's going to the Super Bowl. Declan Doyle, former Hawkeye student assistant, is now the Bears offensive coordinator. Lots going on right now.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk to you about, and I want to get your feedback on those two things, but I want to start with the ladies because you did spend a week following them out in the Northwest, and they went out there and the sky was falling and this team isn't good enough anymore and all that kind of stuff. And the first one was a tough one because that's a very winnable game in which, they had a lead and didn't play well down the stretch and shoot free throws and lost at Oregon. But for them to bounce back the way they did against Washington, I guess, what's your overall look at this team as we get ready to hit the home stretch with where they are, where they could get to be, probably being on the NCAA tournament bubble right now?
Yeah, big picture. This season, I guess, big picture, they're definitely a bubble team. Whether they get into the tournament or not is going to depend on, number one, not taking any bad losses so they can't lose tomorrow night to Northwestern, for example. They're probably going to have to win like a really marquee game at some point. And obviously Sunday's matchup against USC with the crowd being what it's going to be, Caitlin Clark in attendance. That would certainly help. That's the 5th ranked team in the country. But this is a team, that's 3-6 in the Big Ten. So it's going to need to do a little bit of work, but the Big Ten is so deep that you can get in. I guess big picture is, and I'm not going to be an all-time Jan Jensen apologist, but I think there was a ton of overreaction to this losing streak. You look at the way they were playing. I thought they played a really good game against Nebraska, just missed a ton of free throws down the stretch. And then Hannah Stolke, we found out, gets a concussion in overtime. And then the Oregon game, I felt like that was an example of a team executing its game plan perfectly, but then all of a sudden its best player, supposed best player, Lucy Olson, just had a bad second half. And then everyone was looking for answers, especially without Hannah. You lose that game by 1. You got the clean look you wanted at the end. Really twice in a row in Nebraska and Oregon, they had shots to win at the end of regulation. And then the narrative is a lot different if they win both of those games. And obviously they didn't win the games. And so the narrative does change. But I think what you saw against Washington was a team that finally relaxed, finally came together. They go ahead and shoot 72%. That's a school record for a game. So they were just kind of on. And so big picture, I just feel like you've got 6 brand new players. You're replacing the head coach. You got 2 new staff members. This was always going to take a little bit of time. I think everybody maybe overreacted a little bit, but it also, doesn't mean they're going to make the NCAA tournament this year either. It's essentially a rebuilding year, and all the women on the team kind of realize that. It's just tough for people like Sydney Falter and Addie O'Grady, in their last run here. This is their last season. They want to make the tournament. Lucy Olson, this is her last year of college. So it's an interesting balance between young and old, and I think Jan and her staff are starting to figure it out here, and I'm excited to see kind of how this unfolds the rest of the way.
You mentioned figuring it out. They have, and we talked to Rob Brooks last week on the show, and he talked about some of the special freshmen, and you look at Elia Guyton that's continued to play better and better coming off that ACL injury from last year, but you have some building blocks. You mentioned the 3 that leave next year, and then you look at this weekend and you name it is coming to Carver Hawkeye Arena. It could be a star-studded already with Addie Deal, a recruiting class in Journey Houston here from the Quad Cities. The foundation is there, and you're not going to be able to go to a national championship game every single year, especially losing everybody you lost last year. But I think kind of what you were just saying, the foundation is there for Iowa women's basketball to continue to be good for a long, long time under Jane Jensen.
I mean, I think so. I think what people also forget, and I haven't done a very good job of reiterating this, and I thought about this over the weekend, and I feel like I should, again, I'm not trying to be an apologist, but they got 0 out of their 2023 recruiting class. I mean, horribly unfortunate accident that took out Ava Jones and her career. Never was able to recover to the point of being able to play basketball. And Kenise Johnson, hasn't played a lick. She's been hurt. Probably does not look like a major factor in the long-term plans. And so, that was kind of if you really want to think about this globally, the downside of the Caitlin Clark experience is that it was hard to bring in players to play with her other than the ones that were already here. And so there's just a gap. I mean, imagine a football team that doesn't get anything out of an entire recruiting class. It's going to take a little bit of time to get those young freshmen up to speed. And those freshmen are going to become sophomores next year. These freshmen, I think, are going to be a lot better a month from now as we get closer to March Madness. And I think that could be pretty exciting for this team because you see the potential. You see Taylor Stremlow and just the fire she brings. You see Aaliyah Guyton and the playmaking she can create and why she's been at the end of games. Ava Hayden, who, got to return to Oregon last week. And she's going to be special, but right now she's playing a little bit of a limited role, but you can tell she can jump, she can block shots, she can run the floor, and she's learning how to play post at the college level. And then, of course, Tegan Mullaney, I'm really high on her. Just hasn't had her shot go down at all, basically, in 2025. Finally got one to fall at Washington. Maybe that gets her going. But those 4 in particular are going to be building blocks for the future. And then Addie Deal's going to be better than all of them. She's a National Player of the Year potential this year out in California. I got to talk to her while I was out at the Rose Bowl. That was the best part of that trip, by the way, was getting together with her for most of a day. And then, you mentioned the big recruiting weekend, Matt, coming in this weekend. I mean, there's a ton of top 20 national talent coming in. The top of all those is Kate Harpring from Atlanta. She's the number 2 or number 1 overall recruit, depending where you look, in the class of 2026. And, Iowa's got a real chance with her. She's close with Addie Deal. So, I mean, what a weekend this could be if they could swing, not that she's going to make a decision right then and there or anything like that, but if they could make a really positive impression with Kate Harpring this weekend, that would be huge. Because, I mean, she's even higher ranked than Caitlin Clark was. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we're joined now by Chad Leistikow, and you bring me to a lot right now. And I kind of want to go 2 different ways. And this weekend is so important. We're going to talk about it in a second. But you mentioned Addie Deal, a young player from out in California. And I did read your feature article that you got to spend some time with Addie Deal. You've spent time with Caitlin Clark. I'm not asking you to compare and contrast and all that kind of stuff, but tell us a little bit more about Addie Deal. What'd you learn from her when you went out to California and spent that 6 hours, 4 hours, whatever it may be with her, and what kind of young, not just basketball player, because we can go to YouTube and turn on all the highlight videos and stuff, but what are they getting in a person as well?
Well, I think the last part that you mentioned there, Matt, is probably you don't want to oversell, team culture, but she reminded me a lot of just her magnetic personality, kind of like a Kate Martin was toward the end, just sort of like a glue piece, so to speak. And I think that's why you're seeing Iowa contend here with Kate Harpring, and there's some other really top recruits that they're in the mix for, that they really could get in this class. And so I think that part of it stands out in terms of just being an unbelievable teammate, an unbelievable person you want to be around, a person that makes everyone around her better. She's a taller point guard for a really elite national program, Mater D High School in Santa Ana. But her game on top of that it's a complete game. It's not like Caitlin at all in terms of she's not going to pull up from 25 feet on a fast break and just gun a 3. Now, she has a pretty decent 3-point shot, but she can drive, she can rebound. She's a really good defender. She's probably her best quality would be passing. Her passing is just tremendous. And so it's just kind of like you get just a complete player. I almost would say I'm not comparing her obviously to LeBron, but it's almost like LeBron does everything. He can pass, he can rebound, he can score from inside, he can score out. It's kind of like that, like where she's got the capability to do just about everything. And she works her tail off. Like, she is an insane workaholic, loves Iowa. Her family seems like is going to move to Iowa. Her brother plays at Grinnell, so probably a pretty good sign that her family's going to move out here. So they're all in for Iowa, and she wants to bring as many as she can with her, and that's why I think you're seeing a lot of these recruits this weekend. So what a recruit. Huge for Iowa to get her.
And you talk about that too, because usually when you have those special recruiting classes, not just at Iowa, but anywhere, you have that ringleader who kind of puts them all together. It seems like Addie is that person, and she's going to get those. I've already heard them, and people haven't seen them, like seen her play, but she's the next Caitlin Clark. So I love getting some basis of what Iowa fans can expect, because I think they just see top-rated recruit right after Caitlin Clark, and they just say, well, here comes Caitlin Clark all over again. People are going to have to realize there's only one Caitlin Clark, and Addie Deal is completely different. But now, speaking of Caitlin Clark, let's talk about Sunday. What will that place be like? And what a great idea, obviously, by the coaches to use a weekend like that to bring in as many recruits as possible. But I guess we'll start with atmosphere first. What do you expect atmosphere wise? I was at the Ohio State game, the Michigan game, the postseason last year. Do you expect that type of buzz, that type of atmosphere at Carver Hawkeye on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty similar. I remember the buzz before the Michigan game when Caitlin broke the record and scored 49 points. And that was just insane. It just felt so electric in there from hours before, or an hour before. I don't have a sense for if it'll be exactly like that, but I think it will be just because, Caitlin's presence will be back in the building at some point. I'm not sure when she's going to walk to her seat or wherever that's going to be. But there will definitely be that feel, because it is on Fox. It's a nationally televised game on Fox. You've also got, arguably the best women's player in the country on the other side, and Juju Watkins. So that's going to bring a lot of juice to the arena as well. Presumably Iowa wins tomorrow night, so this also becomes a huge game. They'll be 4-6 in the Big Ten at that point, and they need to win. It's going to be tough. USC is 5th ranked in the country. Iowa doesn't have any signature wins really just yet, so that part's going to be, we'll see. But yeah, I think the atmosphere, it's going to be supercharged. I think the fans are going to be into it like they were for all the women's games toward the end of Caitlin's era, especially. I could see it's going to be like live and die with every possession for a while. And hopefully it's a really good game, and hopefully Iowa has a chance, 2 hours into it to pull out the win.
You look at a game in a scenario like that, if they are going to get a signature victory against a top 5 team, against some really talented players, things seem to be coming together nice. The ingredients are there for that signature victory, maybe an upset victory. Talking with Rob Brooks last week, he kind of told us some stories about Caitlin that, obviously when I say to you, hey, Chad, what's your favorite Caitlin Clark moment? It's really easy to say, oh, when she scored her record-breaking point, or when she did this. The things that we see are obvious. Do you have any Caitlin Clark stories? I know you did a lot of feature stories with her. You did a lot of really good coverage of Caitlin Clark. Is there any moment or special story that you remember that might not be, she broke this record, she broke that record, she broke the other record?
I would say a couple times back-to-back Mays, so before her junior year and before her senior year, she let me come to her workout, private workout, and just hang out with her for the whole time and interview her afterwards. Kind of like an off-season type of whatever. The one after the first Final Four was probably my favorite because that was, she was starting to become something huge at that point, and it was nice to get a window into her training. But I would say that even the year before that, like going into her junior year, it was just like I just remember that interview, and there's a video of it at the Des Moines Register. It's like a 1.5-minute interview, like that we posted, but it was so good because they had sold out the home finale against Michigan that year. It was a sellout crowd, and that was the first one, in the Clark era. And she was like, "Hey, I'd love to sell out every game next year." And of course, they didn't that year, that junior year. But it was like she could almost sense, like you could just sense, like everything. The fire within her and just how much more she wanted to do that, what they did her sophomore year obviously wasn't enough. And so I guess just getting a window into that. And then another favorite, I guess, my memories are more just like interview wise, cause she was so good with me, with the media, the Iowa media in particular. And I always appreciated how she kind of, if someone asked her a question in the national media that she didn't like or didn't know, she would really get out of it pretty quick. But if it was somebody that she trusted and liked, she could go on and on. And I thought she was just tremendous in the way she engaged with us. Trust, the trust that we kind of developed, I guess. And but the last memory was I was going through my phone the other day because I was in Seattle and then I came back through Dallas. And so I was thinking, oh, that's the same trip. Of course, the Iowa women made their first Final Four. And I went back to my phone and went back to the interview after Caitlin Clark and Iowa reached the Final Four after they beat Louisville. So it's in the post-game locker room in Seattle. There's only a handful of us that made the trip up there, like 5 or 6 of us, I think, from Iowa that made it. And I think a couple of them got sick while they were there. So it wasn't many of us up there. And it was just like watching the video back with Caitlin, like just there's like 1 or 2 of us around and it's like chill, relaxed. And she's just like so happy and like smiling and just like this is like 22 months ago and like nobody's around her. You know what I mean? Like, and she just made the Final Four, beat Louisville, had 40 some points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds. It's just like, this is like the last moment before the storm. And so I've kept that video on my phone because it was like, we'll never see that again, until who knows, like, maybe she's in her 50s or 60s. People won't care as much, but I'll probably be dead by then. And so, so that is a distinct memory for me. Just being there, like courtside to cover that game and talking to her like almost one-on-one pretty much that whole week. And then we got to Dallas like 3 days later or whatever. And it's like the cameras are like 6 deep and she has to like shut down interviews and it's just, it all changed just in that week. And so that's probably the memory I have the most.
What makes her so, because she's as big can get and she's genuinely down to earth, a good person. I guess, like, how much do you want to make sure you continue to convey that to people? Because what you see is what you get. And I guess a lot of times people always want, and this sounds terrible, to see the downfall or somebody, or to see there's got to be a different side. It's too good to be true. It's not too good to be true. This is Caitlin Clark, and she's stayed true to herself, it seems like, through all of this.
Yeah, it really impresses me watching this last year, especially from afar, and really a lot of her senior year. She was kept a little bit distant from the media just because they had to, and I totally get that. Mm-hmm. But just watching her deal with everything from everything in the WNBA that's happened basically in the last 9-10 months, just how like perfectly she's dealt with it. Like she's never created any of this herself, in my opinion. I mean, It's all been manufactured. Any dislike towards her or shade towards her, or whatever you want to call it, jealousy, etc. Like she's never really caused any of it. And she's always had the perfect answer, the perfect response. She's always dealt with everything so professionally and so graciously and out of love for the women's game. And then deep down, I mean, she's just a serious competitor, and she wants to be, her intensity is also something I really appreciate and really love about her, is just how insanely passionate she is, because we've seen that up close, for the last 4 years at Iowa. And even before that at Dowling, that part had to mature a little bit. And I also I think that part should be focused on more too, is how Lisa Bluter, Jan Jensen, and everybody got her to be her absolute best as a teammate and as a player at Iowa. Because at Dowling, it wasn't always the case. I mean, she never won a state championship, or it really came super close to it there. And her temper was a factor in terms of something she had to control, and that was part of her early growth as a freshman and sophomore at Iowa too. So that's another little part of the whole Caitlin Clark story. I think it's a little bit undertold. Is Lisa Bluter, lucked out to have her for 4 years. Yeah, but they got the absolute most out of her, and Caitlin, they allowed Caitlin to get the absolute most out of her teammates too. And I think we're seeing that a little bit this year too. Sydney Falter had a much better year last year, in terms of what she was all Big Ten tournament team last year. Yeah. It's been harder to adjust. Hannah Stolke scored 47 in a game last year. That's not to say Hannah's worse this year, but it's just different, when Clark's not out there. And so she made everyone better. And I don't know if that, I guess I'm rambling now, but
no, not at all.
That's just sort of there's just so many aspects of this from that I don't think people out there fully appreciate.
And I think people, and it's not just, fans are going to flock to Carver Hawkeye on Sunday. Good luck getting a ticket. You're not, or you're going to pay a boatload to get one. But they want to reminisce. And I think Sunday's part of that and it's not just fans, it's media guys and media people like us that kind of reminisce about what seems like 5 years ago, Chad. I think that's the thing that is crazy that you mentioned. You talked about 2 Final Fours ago, and that was 22 months ago. And it seems like 10 years ago with everything that she's done and has happened since then. Chad Leistikow joins us. I'm going to keep him for a little bit longer because I want to talk about the men's basketball team. I know you were away from them last week out in the Northwest. We've got some local guys, and there's rumors out there that I'm biased towards both of them, especially the point guard named Brock Harding. But I want to get your thoughts on both, because I admit that I'm as biased as can be. And I can also be critical too. Brock's got, I think I saw 17 assists and 11 turnovers in his last 3 games. 17 assists, fantastic. The turnovers, he's turned the ball over a little bit too much right now. So I can be critical as well. But I just wanted to get your take outside of the Quad City area. We'll start with Owen. What have you seen from Owen Freeman in his sophomore year? Your thoughts on what he's been to this program and where he's going now as a sophomore?
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. I think he really is getting, I would say he's meeting expectations. I don't know what expectations were really, but I feel like what's he at, 16 and 8? Something like that. So that's pretty good in the Big Ten. And I don't feel like he's been in foul trouble as much. That's helped a lot. The issues with the Iowa men are just more, defensively, it's just gotten away from them in several of these games. Wisconsin, UCLA, USC, you're going to have clunkers like you did against Minnesota at times. But I think, overall, Freeman's a great example of it. I still really like the players on this team. I feel like they have talent that can compete in the Big Ten and maybe contend for an NCAA tournament bid even. And I feel like Freeman's a great example of that. So I don't feel it, I feel like he's having a solid year. I feel like, like everyone could be better. I'd like to see the free throws better across the board for sure. But yeah, it's not like he came in here as a 5-star, can't miss recruit. He's doing pretty darn good, I think, for so he's still just a sophomore, right?
Yeah.
I'm not missing anything.
And I think that's one of those things where there can be sophomore slumps. I don't think he's had a sophomore slump. You mentioned the foul trouble. Owen was on the show last week. If you want to go watch that, you guys can. It's on the YouTube channel and on the podcast platforms. But he talked about the weight, that he put on, and that's helped him when it's come to foul trouble because he was getting out of position last year, and now he finds himself in better position. So the foul trouble has been good. A little bit more of a lightning rod, especially on the defensive end of things, is Brock Harding. And you mentioned just with Owen Freeman, he wasn't a 5-star can't miss player. And I think that's sometimes what people forget about with Brock Harding is, we used to be, and you're older like me, it used to be develop a player and then cash it in junior, senior year. And now we're in a day of instant gratification where, I think it's going to take a little bit. I think he's developed nicely his second year, got a lot to improve on, especially on the defensive end. He's a bit of a lightning rod when it comes to fans. Your thoughts on Brock Harding year 2?
Yeah, I think both good and bad this year for Brock. I mean, I think he was clearly, to me, a defensive liability on the West Coast trip, but the guy, he's one of Iowa's 5 best players, I think. So, I mean, that's why Fran McCaffrey has him out there. I like the starting 5 that they have. I think Brock's passing is great, as his ball handling is really good. I think sometimes people think he dribbles too much, but that's just kind of his game, right? You know him better than I do.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always just kind of been like that. And, it's just like, it's par for the course. Love it or not, it's just kind of been the way it's been for Iowa point guards, from Mike Gazelle to Jordan Bohannon to Brock Harding. They have their fans and they have their detractors, and it's like, if just because you don't do one thing great, it doesn't mean you're a bad player or anything like that. I think, people see Thelwell and like, oh, he's a good, why not play him more? Well, he's playing a lot and he makes a lot of kind of silly turnovers too. So, I don't know. I feel like he's been good. Like this is probably about what I would expect from Brock Harding. I didn't think he would play this much. His free throws, I'm surprised that he's not been a better free throw shooter, honestly, as a point guard. I think that was one thing about Bohannon that was
really nice,
that you loved as a Hawkeye fan. He was automatic at the line. And just think, if Brock Harding was automatic at the line, they might have 2 more wins right now than they do. So, I guess they did hold on the other day.
Yeah.
But that could have been a loss.
Oh,
that
my
could have been
goodness.
a loss against Penn State.
It was some tense moments in the Randazzo household,
Jeepers,
especially
creepers.
when it's that guy missing. No, and I completely agree with you, Chad. It is one of those things where, you're going to get your pluses, you're going to get your minuses. It's a work in progress and all those kind of things. So, and the West Coast was a glaring thing. But those big guards at USC are going to give people a lot of problems. I don't know if Brock's part of the defensive mystery, but I don't know if it's just if he's the scapegoat. I think that's where I kind of draw a little bit of a line, is he's part of the problem, but I think there's some people out there that are like, well, he's the problem. And it's like, well, no, I don't think it's just Brock that's not playing the best defense. So a good sophomore season so far. I can't let you go without talking Bears, because you've got a new OC, a new DC. You stole my head coach. You stole my head coach and then ran out to the Northwest. I couldn't even yell at you for stealing my OC. What has this last week been like for a Bears fan and a self-admitted, long-suffering Bears fan? From the outside looking in, you got to feel like they might be getting it right.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I've become a very cynical Bears fan here, because I know our leadership is very dysfunctional. It's a dysfunctional organization, but sometimes a dysfunctional organization, you hope, gets it right. That's kind of what I'm hoping for here. It sounds like they paid him a ton of money to come, so that probably helped a little bit. I mean, that's the guy I wanted. They never hire the guy I want. I mean, Matt Eberflus I hated that from the start. Never bought into that. So I was correct on that one. Mark Trestman was a terrible hire from the CFL. I was actually kind of positive on Matt Nagy, and it sort of worked out for a little bit. Getting the Chiefs offensive coordinator, I thought was a smart idea. Somebody who developed Patrick Mahomes a little bit. It didn't work out with Trubisky, but I'm okay. I mean, I'm excited about Ben Johnson as a Bears fan, but I'm also I'm kind of beaten down by the Bears. I mean, I was rooting for the Lions this year for you.
Bless
for all
you.
I have a ton of Lions friends like out there, not just you. And I like, I loved covering Jack Campbell and Sam Laporta. So it was easy for me to enjoy watching the Lions. And now that the Bears' new head coach was responsible for a lot of those lovely play calls. And by the way, I've always been a big Dave Montgomery fan too, always, ever since his days at Iowa State. And he was a Bear as well. And so I was hoping
to change you. I was hoping this year was like, it was getting close. I was getting text messages about like,
I was about to flip. Yeah.
But
I kind of, they were my second team this year. I'd say. I've always been kind of a Ravens guy too, but
are you surprised by the Doyle hire at OC? And if I was a Bears fan, I'd be fine with it because that offense is Ben Johnson's. So, and they brought over Antoine Randall, who is now an assistant head coach, wide receivers coach, that's been with Ben every step of the way or the last 2-3 years. So I don't think Doyle's got to do a lot. I don't mean that in a negative way, but I think he has a nicer learning curve with those guys at the helm. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I really don't know much about him. He was a student assistant at Iowa, so he, learned his craft under Greg Davis and Brian Ferentz. So but obviously, they consider him a rising star. Somebody must. So Ben Johnson, I think you have to kind of try. They picked him over David Shaw, the former Stanford head coach. So that tells you how highly he is thought of here. And you're right. It won't be his offense, but he must, he's probably a guy with a pretty good analytical mind that can work well with Ben Johnson. And, if he needs to, he just basically needs to be a Ben Johnson, like, soak everything in from Ben Johnson that he can and be kind of that guy that if he has to go do some head coach duties, he can step right in and be Ben Johnson. So it's kind of, in a way, it makes sense to have an impressionable, young, hungry, offensive mind. So I'm open to it. I just don't know much about him. I'm trying to learn more about him right now. I'm in the process of that, and hopefully I'll have a story at some point. But, he wasn't here. He wasn't at Iowa very long. Obviously, he's Chris Doyle's son. That's, so that's why the name sounds familiar, or is Chris Doyle's son. And so, there's, that's obviously his foot in the door at that time. He was at Iowa from 2016 to 2018. So he's 28 years old. 28, Matt. That's like 23 years younger than me.
Why is it
Iowa
that
City West
younger
grad.
people? Why is it that the NFL gets younger and younger? And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I was just asked Pat Inger earlier in the show. I'm like, why is it getting so much younger? Because it used to be you had to be a grizzled veteran head coach with the resume and all that kind of stuff. And you mentioned analytics just a few minutes ago. And I think Doyle will have an innovative side to him being 28 years old. But why do you think it is that the NFL continues to get younger and younger at the head coach position and coordinator positions?
I think the Sean McVay thing really opened people's eyes. Like, oh, wow, we need the next Sean McVay. I mean, what was he, 30? He was low 30s when he took the Rams to the Super Bowl the first time, right? Against the Patriots, whatever year that was. Mm-hmm. So I think that was part of it. And certainly, in this case, he's worked under Sean Payton now, and it sounded like he came, recommended via Dan Campbell somehow. So, anyway, I think that's probably it. I think people are chasing that next Sean McVay type story. And I mean, you look across the NFL, like, and then Andy Reid's still in the Super Bowl, still winning. So it's not like the old guys don't got it. So we'll see. Who knows? If the Bears hire you, you're probably destined to fail. So I don't wish that for Declan.
I used to say
the absolute best from the bottom of my heart.
I used to say that about the Lions, and they didn't win a Super Bowl. I get that, but it feels 10 times better. I'm a Cub fan. Are you a Cub fan?
Yeah. So yes, I am. I've been a Cubs fan since the 80s.
Okay.
Since my childhood, because they were on WGN and I could watch them.
Yep.
Always been a diehard Cubs fan. Always.
So it feels better when they win. Like that World Series in 2016 just meant more.
Yeah. I mean but what I was just going to say was since they lost Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, all that, like I've really deteriorated in my fandom for the Cubs. And kind of got the World Series, and like, so I don't want to say that I'm like a Cubs fan, like
Die hard.
rah. I don't watch the games anymore.
That's a lot of people though, Chad. A lot of people baseball wise I feel like dwindling when it comes to baseball, and NFL and football and even basketball to an extent, but especially football is a giant beast that people gravitate towards.
Yeah. And it's just too time consuming. I mean, I got too much going on that I can't watch a baseball game. I can't even record. I don't even want to record a game and watch it.
It's funny when we're like texting and hanging out, and it's Tom, Chad, and I, and Chad will give the old no spoilers. I'm recording this and this because I have this, and this. That's my life too. It's like, I'm going to eventually get around to watching all these things, but ever so often when you got 4 kids, it's what kid is at what point. So it's kind of nice to have a night where you can actually sit and watch. Hey, before we let you go, can you plug your stuff? Because you do a podcast, Legends, and I'm going to mess it up, but with Doc. Talk about that. How can people get that if they want more coverage like that? And then you mentioned a lot of, your Addie Deal stories and your Caitlin Clark stuff. How can they not just follow you, but get your content, I guess is the best way to say it.
Obviously the Des Moines Register has employed me for a very long time.
Lead with that.
Been with Gannett. Been with Gannett 30 years, on and off, but mostly on. Ever since 2000, I've been on. So HawkCentral.com is certainly, that's our homepage for Hawkeye sports. I'm 99% cover the Hawkeyes. Every once in a while, I'll dip my toe in a few other things, but that is that's our website. Obviously, I'm on X. I'm on Blue Sky now, at Chad Leistikow. You can see the spelling there. So follow.
Did I get it right?
Yeah, we have. What, my pronunciation?
No, on my screen.
Oh yeah.
I did that off the top of my head because I was in a hurry.
I typed in my name too, so I didn't know if that was
okay.
Me. But
no,
anyway,
I think that's on my end.
Okay, well, nicely done.
Thank you.
But yeah, so I have. If you listen, we have a Hawk Central podcast, at least one every week. So one goes on Apple. If there's ever during football season, we have 3 a week on Hawk Central, and then I have Legends and Listeners with Scott Docterman, as you mentioned. So that's on Iowa Everywhere. It comes out every Thursday, and so that's kind of a bonus that my company allows me to do and partner with Iowa Everywhere. It's just a little bit of a side deal. Allows me to talk Hawks with Scott Docterman and the Big Ten. So that comes out on Thursdays. Our Hawk Central show comes out Wednesdays. And then, during the football season, we'll do post-game pods on Saturdays and another one on Tuesdays after media. So 4 a week. And so I feel like most people know me now from those more so than my writing. That's just the way the world works now.
It's crazy. When I used to do,
it's cool. It's cool.
When I used to do WQAD way back in the day, or a few months ago, I would go around and I get more people in Iowa game yell at me for Tommy and I's Hawkeye Report podcast than I would for like a feature story I just did at WQAD. And I'm like, well, I'm on TV every night at 10 o'clock, but it'd be like the podcast and those kind of things that were kind of drawing more love maybe than that. So, well, I appreciate you. I'm going to bug you again because this was very cool, and enjoy the week. I know you're busy. Welcome back to reality. I hope you enjoyed your vacation. Hope your daughter feels better, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you having me.
He is Chad Leistikow. We got a lot more to get to on OTA on a Monday. Coming up after the break, we'll have the best thing we saw over the weekend. And then also after that, we will have Don Umland, our resident official expert, talking about some interesting calls yesterday, especially in the AFC game. So all that to get to. A reminder, tomorrow right here on Off the Air, Caleb Johnson, former Iowa running back as he gets ready for the NFL draft, will be with us tomorrow. All that and much more tomorrow, but we got a lot more to get to today. We'll be right back right here on Off the Air.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching on YouTube, subscribing on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. That helps me out a ton. Also, tell a friend or 2 or 10 about what we're doing right here in the Quad Cities each and every day, 10 till noon, Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We are also up on all the podcast platforms as well, so make sure you're checking us out, and that includes Apple Podcasts. So if you missed any of today's show, which is Pat Angerer, Chad Leistikow, and soon to be Don Umland, make sure you check those out on all of the podcasting platforms as well. Coming up tomorrow, excited about the show. Iowa running back Caleb Johnson, as he gets ready for the NFL draft, will join us to talk about his season at the University of Iowa and, of course, his future in the NFL. Also, hoping to track down Madison Key's personal coach, private coach, when she was back here in the Quad Cities when she was younger. We will hope to have Tim Baldridge on tomorrow as well. So a lot more to get to. Really focusing on that Madison Keys story probably tomorrow with Tim. So what a weekend it was for the Rock Island native down in Australia. One thing I like to do on the show, want to start doing, is the best thing I saw over the weekend. And it's not always going to be a touchdown or a great catch. Sometimes it's that little moment that means the most. And tried to get to this earlier. I was having some technical difficulty, although everyone tells me that it was playing just fine. But I want to get to a moment. Senior night at Alleman High School. Of course, my son on the Alleman basketball team as well. He is a freshman there. So this is the varsity game, and it was senior night, and Brandon Zeman, who doesn't get a ton of playing time for the varsity team, but by all accounts is a fantastic teammate. The coaches love him, and Brandon gets in the game and knocks down that jump shot off the glass. A great moment, getting high fives from everybody. So a special senior day, special senior night for Brandon Zeman. Also a special night for the Alleman Pioneers as well, as they picked up another victory, knocking off Morrison. So moments like that, the best thing I saw this weekend. If you have things that you see over the weekend or through the week that you want me to put on the show here, you can always contact me on Twitter, Twitter X, same thing. Or you can reach out to me, DazHawk1979. Actually, we'll do this. offtheairdazzo@gmail.com. offtheairdazzo@gmail.com. Send them to me. We'll put them on the show on a Monday or a Friday or whenever we best find fit. So as we mentioned earlier in the show, it was a big weekend of NFL football, a frustrating weekend of NFL football if you are some people. And it seems like the Kansas City Chiefs might have got a call or two. So we're going to call in our expert when it comes to officiating, Don Umland. And I know, first and foremost, you're going to see, Don, the name under your screen does not say Don Umland, because I don't know if you knew this, Don, but I'm a one-person show. So watch before you could even say anything as I update the name underneath the screen to say, wait for it. Don Umland is officially. Hi, Donnie. How are you, buddy?
Say his name. That's right.
Why do you sound so far away from your computer?
I don't know. I'm right next to it.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're gonna have to buy you a microphone. We can hear you, which is a good thing. You don't need to get too close to it. You're already creepy enough as is, so we don't need you getting too creepy. People frustrated, Don. Don, of course, was on the show a few weeks ago, a longtime official here in the area. He referees basketball, officiates football, an umpire, also D3 national coordinator when it comes to umpiring. So there's the resume of Don Umland. But I think a lot of people, Don, frustrated with some calls yesterday. And I don't want to get into the whole, is the fix in conspiracy theory type of stuff, but I want to talk about a couple of them with you. One of them was the spotting of a football in the Buffalo-Kansas City game, and it seemed like a first down, and they looked at it, and they didn't give him the first down. Of course, the Chiefs get the football going and win the game. But what I want to talk about is when the play gets over, there's two guys on the sidelines that are spotting it, and they both ran in with different spots. Does that happen a lot? And how do we fix that, or how do we figure out where that football goes to when there's two different dudes coming in and looking at two different spots?
It's a long and short answer of that, and I discussed this with my crew this morning just since it had happened. Here's what happens. You've got two officials crashing on the play, and you're trying to find the football, which is difficult in that mass of humanity. Obviously, what they as each saw didn't match up. So what we would do in that situation, and this is just taking it in a high school game, but it's relative, is the play's going to get killed no matter what. We know that. And we're going to come together and try to find out between the two of us who had a look at the football. The guy that can also help with that potentially if the ball's laying on the ground is the umpire, because he might see it laying at a certain spot. Now, he can't tell you necessarily when the knee was down, but he can say, hey, I've got the ball here, it crossed the goal line, or was a first down, at least based on where it was laying. I think this is what happened, is they went with the calling official that was at the bottom of the screen that had it short because it was on his side of the field, per se, and based on what he could see, even though he couldn't see the ball, is where he had it to the last point, which was short. The person at the top of the screen, which was on the far side, unless he's got a wide open view to help, maybe couldn't help. This is where he thought he had it, but couldn't help anymore. So we're talking, matters of inches here, and it's an imperfect science based on trying to get that based on what information you can gather at the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the frustrating thing, and it's something that you guys don't deal with, is the review process. Sure did seem like it was a first down. And I guess they went with the call stands because it wasn't clear and evident that he got the first down. But just me looking at it and seeing it, it seemed like a first down to me. Another frustrating call, if you're a Bills fan, was the interception completion that ended up being a completion. Boy, Don, that ball hits the ground.
Yeah.
What's a catch? What's an interception? What's an incomplete pass? I'm so confused these days about what it is, especially when you see it on video and it seems to hit the ground.
Well, I think there's two things, and I think that this is going to go back to the first we just discussed and this one. Sometimes we aren't always satisfied with replay because we're sitting there thinking, well, they've got to flip it. And unless it's clear and evident that the video evidence shows you, you should probably go with the call on the field. Okay, well, in the terms of the catch, and let's back up and just discuss this briefly. What determines a catch? Well, I actually kind of looked up and found college and pro rules for definitions of catch. In short, if a player is going to go to the ground in the act of making a catch, the player must maintain complete and continuous control of the ball through the process of contacting the ground. Okay? It is not a catch if a player has control of the ball and slight movement of the ball, even if it touches the ground, will be considered loss of possession. The player must lose control of the ball in order for there to be loss of possession. Well, if you think he had control when he hit the ground, even though the ball touches a part of the ground. If it doesn't move,
but didn't it move?
That's the subjective part. Do you think it moved, or do you think he lost firm control of the ball? So if video evidence doesn't give you that 100%, they probably went with the catch, which led back to the other part about joint possession to the ground.
But video evidence showed us that it moved. We watched it.
So apparently they didn't see it as loss of control of the ball. So I don't have all the finite points of it.
I get you. But my thing, too, is like that's the subjective side of it that causes a lot of problems. And I think when you get into such areas of like if the ball moves and then if it moves, but what is control? Like you can see the ball move. The ball moves. But the gray area is it can move, but you still have control of the ball. It just gets really, really funky when it comes to all
like
that.
In the definition says if a player has control of the ball, a slight movement of the ball, will be loss of possession or not control. Well, if that's the matching pro rule, again, the term of what's control and what's not control. I'll conclude with this, Matt. We're going to debate this one for a while, but it always seems like it takes a unique form of catch or play to trigger a rule change. And we've had these in the past. We've had the tuck rule. We've had catches, what's control of sliding, and then we debate and then maybe the rule changes. But it always takes a play unique like this to lead to these discussions. Yeah. So here we are.
No, because I know you're an official and you're a referee and you've done it for like 78 years or something like that. I think you're 124. Yes. But there's that loud outcry this morning and in the past that the fix is in for Kansas City or the fix is in for that team. I'm not a big the fix is in type of guy. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist type of guy. But it makes it harder and harder to not believe in that. I'm going to give my opinion in a second, but when you hear the fix is in, can you talk about that? Because that's believing that a bunch of referees or higher powers are getting together and purposely doing something. It seems really far-fetched that that's happening at this level in front of millions upon millions of people.
I support what you're saying. These individuals have worked hundreds and hundreds of games, not only at the high school, but at the collegiate level to get one of those coveted spots as an NFL official. They're like any other crew in the sense, even though it's majorly amplified, they want to get it as right as much as anybody. Those individuals are, they're paid a lot of money to do it, but I would like to think in my mind that they're just trying to get it right and there's not a fix in. It's just that when you have a team like, and let's just say Kansas City, who's on TV all the time and has been in high-profile games for 7 years, and they're a two-time defending champion, everything's under scrutiny when you see player X get the benefit of a call.
Yeah, that's actually.
I would like to think that it's just do sometimes that you earn a call because of something. I don't. We could get into a separate semantic about that, but again, they're highly scrutinized because of what their responsibilities are to do. So I don't think there's a fix.
That was my next point / question. Is I'm a Bulls fan and Michael Jordan probably got the benefit of the doubt more often than not. Is there something to the theory that if you're one of the best of all time, you're probably going to get the benefit of the doubt more often than not?
I would say in a very general scope, having veteran status certainly earns you some merit over somebody who's a rookie that's an unknown in selected situations. Yes.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And it's one of those things, too, where great players are going to get some calls here and there, and that's what the Chiefs come to do. You know what, though? It does get frustrating. Do you like the overall taking human error out of being an official? Replays. And it gets to the point, how far do you go with it? Like, there's obvious face mask calls that aren't called, or you can even would you ever want to see them review a penalty?
I think there's merit to reviewing it the other way, where maybe there's a non-call or a call that they should be able to challenge and say, hey, I'd like you to take a look at that something was missed. I don't think you can just have video up there reviewing every play saying, hey, we're going to buzz down. But if you want to challenge, like, hey, our guy got face masks on the running back, would you take a look?
See, I think it has to be subjective and objective. Like, if it's an objective, like, he flat out missed they call the face mask and there was no, and I'll even say it as a Lions fan. There was a play in the Lions Commanders game where they got called for a face mask, got 15 yards and a first down, and there was no face mask. I don't mind that, but I don't think you can get to the point where you're reviewing penalties and, hey, was this a hold? Was that a hold? That becomes subjective of what the referee sees, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. I think you can have some selected plays that you could look at and try to fix. But we have to be, you and I talked about this before. Video should be utilized. The call on the field needs to be entrusted and stood until there's indisputable evidence that should prove it otherwise. Otherwise, I think we need to trust the system. Otherwise, I think we lead to what you said, Matt. We could do this on every play, and it's like, well, what? Now we start questioning subjectivity. And that's a tough slope to go down. I mean, even baseball's put in where you can challenge a pitch, but at least that's objective because they can look at the machine and see the positioning. There isn't any subjectivity involved.
Yeah, you guys want the spotlight, though. You referees, you umpires, you officials, you need to have some spotlight at some point, don't you?
I know that when I put in a moment, I'm going to be serious here. Again, it goes back. I don't get paid to officiate to not the last 30 seconds. If the situation is dictated that I got to be inserted, then you do your best effort to get it right. Otherwise,
I completely agree with that. I hate it when people say the referee should swallow their whistles in the last minute of a basketball game. It's like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Just be consistent. I think that's the biggest thing, is be consistent. And when it comes to like pass interference and holding and some of those kind of things, some crews are different. I don't want to say holding. Holding's a hold in my opinion, but like pass interference, some crews are going to let you get away with a little more as long as they consistently do it throughout the entire game. I'm completely good with it. Hey, our most important.
Sorry. I was just
no,
saying
go ahead.
Don't think that those crews at the NFL level, those coaches don't know the crews that they get. And, is it a crew that calls it tighter, calls it looser? They do scouting reports on the officials. I mean, they have the ability at that level to get that information.
Don Umland, he is our officials expert here on OTA. He's also one of our wrestling experts. It is Royal Rumble week. So this will not be the last you see of Don Umland this week. If you are a wrestling fan, we're going to have a whole bunch more to talk to about the Royal Rumble coming up later this week. If you're not a wrestling fan, tough. I don't care. It's my show. I can do what I want to do. So, Donnie, thanks so much. We'll see you back later this week.
Glad to be of help.
All right. Don Umland trying to dissect and help us figure out what is what in the world of the NFL. But the bottom line is the bottom line, and it is the Chiefs. It is the Eagles coming up a week from Sunday for the Super Bowl down in New Orleans. Super excited about the rest of this week, tracking down a bunch of fun guests, including starting tomorrow, a pair of really exciting interviews. First and foremost, Caleb Johnson, Iowa running back, getting ready for the NFL. We'll have him on the show off the air tomorrow, so we'll catch up with Caleb Johnson. And also Tim Baldridge, a former personal coach of Madison Keys. What a story she was this past weekend, breaking through, winning a Grand Slam title. So we'll talk to Tim Baldridge hopefully tomorrow about Madison Keys and the Madison Keys mania that came over the Quad Cities this past weekend as well. So a lot more to get to throughout the week as well. Trenton Wallace later in the week, Alex Tanning later in the week. So a lot of good things to get to. Of course, Wildman Wednesday on Wednesdays. So another full week of shows here on Off the Air. If you have not already, please subscribe. Please spread the word. And if you missed any of the show, you can check it all out on all the podcasting platforms as well. Again, today it was, and we want to thank Pat Angerer, Chad Leistikow, and Don Umland for joining us. We'll have a lot more throughout the week. Thank you so much for watching Off the Air on a Monday. We'll see you guys back here coming up tomorrow.